from the Swisscast Network. Hey there, just a reminder, this is a series of 6 episodes. You'll hear actual coaching conversations between Danna and a client. Here's what we hope you get by listening to this coaching series. We want you to see how coaching helps someone work through real health challenges. We want you to learn tools and strategies you can apply to your own health journey. We want you to understand what it's like to work with a health coach. And maybe, just maybe, you'll recognize yourself in some of these conversations. Joanna is a woman in her early 40s navigating the kind of health challenges so many of you tell us about. You'll hear Joanna's coaching journey unfold across 6 sessions. If you're just hopping into the middle of this series, check out the link in the show notes for our special playlist so you can start at the beginning of Joanna's health coaching journey. We appreciate her vulnerability in sharing her story and being so open about her health struggles. Make sure you're subscribed to So Frickin Healthy in your favorite podcast app so you don't miss any of these sessions. Or you could head over to our website, sofrickinhealthy.com, and sign up for our email list to get notified when each new episode drops. All right, let's get into it.
Hi, I'm Donna Levy-Hoffman.
And I'm Megan McCrory.
Welcome to So Frickin Healthy, the podcast where women's health gets real.
Whether you're healing, thriving, or still figuring your shit out, you're in the right place.
Hi, Joanna. What's new and good, my dear?
Hi, how are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I am also well. Yeah, feeling good these days.
Good. Tell me a bit about that. That's always good to hear.
Yeah, I don't know. Just been feeling like I have a lot of energy, which is really nice. So nice change from before.
Nice. What do you think it is of that?
I think, I don't know, maybe like the fewer carbs, I think is really helping, especially in the afternoons. So that afternoon slump, if I have it, then it's maybe like 15 minutes around 4 instead of kind of starting at 2 and then dragging on for the afternoon. But yeah, I really noticed a difference. So thank you for that.
That's amazing. I mean, I didn't do anything. You did all the work. I was just there to, support a little bit, but you should thank yourself.
Yeah. Okay.
Excellent. Anything else new and good? And that was a great start, but
no, not really. That's the biggest news from my side.
Excellent. That is really good news. I'm always happy to hear positive changes, especially when it has to do with stuff that we talked about and communicated about. So that's really happy. I got your images and food diary, food log that I kind of reviewed shortly this morning. But you didn't mention on the chat that this week was kind of touch and go and didn't work as well, but that you're kind of ready to jump right back on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And I was wondering, what do you think would be more beneficial to you? Do you think looking into what happened that kind of helped you, to come off of the course, or more like look through the stuff that you sent me and give you a little bit of feedback there, or a completely different topic, maybe? I don't know, maybe something else that you had in mind and on your heart.
Oof, good question. I'm not sure. I guess we could start with maybe some ways to stay on top of the food blogging. It's difficult. I mean, I have a really stupid reason that it was difficult, which is that the notebook I was keeping the food log in was in my purse. And then sometimes it was just on the other side of the house and I forgot about it. And then once I'd forgotten about it,
sure,
it seemed like, well, I can't remember what I ate yesterday in the afternoon. And, didn't want to just write down sort of junk data.
Yeah. But let me ask you a question. So it wasn't the actual eating habits. It was just the logging that you kind of fell through. Oh, okay. No, then I'm super happy, because I don't know if you feel like the logging actually helps you also keep up with everything, or if you feel like, no, I got this, maybe it's helpful to jump into it once in a while, but I don't feel like that's a huge miss on your end. I don't think you should feel bad about that, because in life, I mean, who does food logging all day, every day? It's just, for me, it was very helpful to get an overview of how your weeks look. And the question is, if for you it is in any way helpful, or do you feel that you want to continue it because it's just becoming a habit? But I don't think you should be too worried about missing days, is all I'm saying.
I think the aspect that we talked about last time, that sort of, because you have to log it, it sort of changes your behavior, is a little helpful for me. It
Yeah.
could kind of keep me in line. Like, okay, if I have like a piece of chocolate cake, then I know I'm gonna have to write it down on my food log.
Which you did, which I'm
Yeah,
proud.
yeah. Which I have still a quarter of my birthday cake in the freezer that just calls to me in the evening. So struggling a bit with that. Maybe
Fair.
that also kind of played into why I didn't log some days.
Yeah.
I was like,
Ever since my birthday, I
little
haven't vlogged. I
resistance
wonder
there
why.
to fess up. But
God.
yeah, I don't know. Maybe I think let's have a goal maybe that we keep it for another 2 weeks until our next session and see how that goes if I feel like it's still bringing something, some value.
Sure, sounds good. So, how about this? I was kind of thinking of a few ideas of how to make sure that you continue with the food logging as best as you can for the next couple of weeks. And one thing you did mention in the past was I don't want to use my phone, which I can respect, especially around food. Our rule at home is like you're eating, you do not have your phone on you. So, I can definitely respect that. But you did mention also that probably part of the problem was that the notebook was just elsewhere and out of sight, out of mind, or laziness, or whatever it may be that, or that chocolate cake, doesn't matter, no judgment. But something kind of kept you away from logging. So why don't we try something else? And let me know if this triggers another idea for you or seems reasonable. Let's brainstorm here. I was thinking maybe of having like just sticky notes in another side of the house. So around the kitchen or around where you usually sit down to eat, where you can just jot things down. And because it's a sticky note, you can just stick it instead. You don't have to transfer it. You can just stick it and write the date on top. And that's kind of a keeper in the notebook. Again, just a brainstorm. So maybe you have another idea.
No, I think that's a good idea. Like just some in various areas where I tend to pause and have a minute to reflect on things. I can try that. My kids love office supplies, so I'm not sure how long that will last, but I'll give it a go.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Okay, excellent. So I'm just trying to think of maybe another little motivation or another little idea that will help trigger that. But I don't know if you have any other kind of ideas where you feel like a certain area or certain time of day or a certain space is a bit harder to log. Is it more in the office or
Yeah,
more?
no,
I
it's
don't know.
easier for me at the office. So it's on the
Okay.
weekend that's hard when I'm home and I don't have like
Okay.
a quiet, so, at the office I can kind of take a minute. I can like remember what I had for dinner last night, note what I'm having for lunch, and then I've got sort of 24 hours there. But I noticed everything like fell off the rails on the weekend. And we had a crazy weekend last weekend. So it was just, yeah, that just all went off to the side.
Okay. No problem.
All right, can we talk about the urban cleanse for a minute? Because I've literally watched Donna transform women's lives with this thing.
Stop.
No, I'm serious. Like women who came in saying, I've tried everything, and then they've actually figured out what works for their bodies.
That's the thing. It's not a diet. It's not a lose 10 pounds in 10 days gimmick. It's about understanding your body, what fuels you, what drains you, what makes you feel like a human instead of a zombie.
And you can eat real food.
You can absolutely still eat real food. This is not about deprivation. It's about re-education. Learning to work with your body instead of against it.
So if you're tired of the diet hamster wheel,
hop off and check out organolicious.ch/urban cleanse.
Your future self is already thanking you.
It really is. If you found this episode useful, please share it with someone you love because you radiate confidence even when you have no idea what you're doing. So let's think about another thing. You're really trying hard to really maintain quite a healthy food intake. We can definitely discuss about things here and there, but it really shows that you're really doing your best. So what if it's usually easier to remember the stuff that I wasn't too happy about that I ate? You know what I mean? Like the salad is like forgotten, but like, oh, but that cake was looking at me, So either just note that down, or again, another thing that we can kind of evolve into doing is more marking very simple red, green, orange on a day, right? So when you reflect back on the day in the evening and you go like, you know what? Breakfast was amazing. Snacks were amazing. Yeah, between lunch and dinner, I did have blank, which I'm not too happy about. I'd categorize it as a red. I'd categorize it as an orange, then at least you have that overview, because I think what's more important than looking at how one day is structured, it's also important to see how frequently we're actually having the things that we think we're having infrequently, right?
Yeah.
So we're kind of thinking like, oh, I'll have this once a week, but then it's like, oh crap, it's like 3, 4, 5 times a week, and I don't notice because life. So it might be a good way to evolve into just thinking like, how is my day overall? Super proud of myself. I can't think of one thing. It's a freaking green, or I had this. Dana said that maybe this is not necessarily unhealthy, but maybe it's, more triggering the glucose levels in the body. And then it's a little bit easier also for you to see the overview, because when we look at the pictures one by one, yeah, it's great and it's helpful. And I don't know if just to update our listeners quickly. So what you did was you sent me a lot of stuff that was like videos. I mean, it was amazing. You're so organized. It's ridiculous. I mean, if Megan looked at it, she probably was very proud. She's the only person I know who's that organized. But I was overwhelmed with it. I was like, yikes. Okay. So you reorganized it and send it to me again. And I don't know how much detail you kind of reviewed the stuff again, if you had a chance to kind of look at it, and what your thoughts were. Maybe you had some aha moments there, or maybe just felt super proud. All are good feelings. Just wondering what you
I kind of had a hard time looking at it, so I didn't want to go through. I felt some resistance to going through every single photo on every single day. So I kind of did just like a high level reorganization for you and left it at that. And I thought, okay, I would like to maybe hear your insights from what you saw, but I don't know. It was almost like, looking at pictures of yourself after an event or something. Like, I don't know if I want to see this.
Okay, no problem. And the last question that I have, and then I'm happy to give you some feedback on some certain things. The last question that I have is, so you did this with the CGM. Can you, on your own, you don't have to share it with me if you don't want to, but would you be able to see kind of like, oh, on this day at this time, you still have that information?
I don't think I do. I could maybe get it. Actually, wait. Maybe is like the question. I still have the data on my phone, but I need to look into how to extract it and then map it to the days and the photos of what I ate. Okay. Yeah, because that's exactly what I wanted to have. And I think the data was living in 2 separate apps. And God, it would be so cool if there was just like some kind of app where you just did your food logging with the photo and it mapped it to your CGM data. And then you could really see like
there is. So there is. Bacon and I actually tested out a product called Veri, VERI. And there you can actually do that. So you can take a photo, just really simple. You can log in if you want to add extra notes, but you can just take a photo and that's it. And then you really see like 2 hours later, that information is very, very clear.
Okay. Yeah.
So if and when you decide to do another CGM, that's an idea, is to really, again, it's been years that we tested it out. I need to research a little bit and see if they're still working and in the same capacity and everything. But there are probably more of those by now. I mean, but what we can look at today, just shortly, because we don't have all the time in the world, but I think it would be a little bit helpful for you, because I assume that also when you notice this in real time, you're like, oh, okay, my glucose levels are high. That's the breakfast I had. Because you did mention that there were certain moments when you're like, oh, interesting. Yeah. So I don't want to kind of go over it too much ad nauseum, where you actually had these aha moments momentarily, at least. But I do see, for example, the breakfast, which is considered a healthier kind of breakfast to have, which is the granola with the fruits and the yogurt. And I see some nuts and seeds in there, which is great. The real question is how your body is reacting to such a breakfast, because it still is high on fructose. I mean, at the end of the day, right? Because I'm seeing blueberries and I'm seeing a nectarine, which are higher in fructose. So, I mean, blueberries are not necessarily, but long story short, that is something that you need to really see for yourself. Mm-hmm. Because if you had that handful of nuts maybe before and then had that breakfast, you might not react as you did if you had it all in one bowl. And this is also assuming that the yogurt is kind of flavorless, so unsweetened. and that it's dairy, or are you having, because I know you have oat milk. So again, the dairy still by default has a lot of sugar, unfortunately, natural sugars. So we need to kind of think about that and see, okay, interesting. How is my body reacting to that? And one of the best ways to also notice that is, how is your hunger for the next meal? Do you feel like there's a sugar crash? So you're maybe a little shaky, or maybe all of a sudden the hunger comes very rapidly and kind of surprises you, and you're like hangry now and things like that. Or is it like, oh, when I eat this breakfast, I can stretch a bit longer,
It's
you know what I mean?
more,
So
yeah, it's more
those are
that
all,
second. Yeah,
yeah.
if I have that breakfast, and I usually won't get hungry until 10:30 or 11, and if I have that around then, I don't want to eat until 3 or 4. Kind of throws off my whole day because then I'm like, I don't want lunch, but then I
Yeah.
want like a small lunch thing kind of right before dinner time. But it does keep me going for a good 4 or 5 hours, and then no, I don't feel like super like hunger pangs. I think for me that's a good breakfast when I
Mhm.
have it. Yeah.
Great.
But I mean, yeah, I don't know what it does to my blood sugar. I don't ever feel sleepy after that.
Yeah. I mean, it wouldn't necessarily be, again, each person reacts differently. So it could, that doesn't have to be the sleepiness, or like yeah, some people feel sleepy or feel like they're really low on energy now and they need to pick me up. They'll go for the coffee or the chocolate or the carbs or whatever. One thing that you can definitely do is just add chia seeds to the equation.
Oh,
Let the chia seeds sit in the yogurt a little bit just to soak up a bit of the liquid. 5-10 minutes is enough, and then add everything else in there. So you're adding even more fiber, and chia seeds help you feel satiated for even longer. And just picking up on what you said, which is basically that you usually get hungry around 10-11, I would, again, and this is just planting a seed in your head for next time, we can definitely start discussing again intermittent fasting. Because I think that if you naturally stretch that long, getting another couple of hours, making sure that you have the 16-hour mark, which is where the sweet spot is, and then going into a lunch or even a meal like this, honestly, if you feel like you need your breakfast as a, you know what I mean? You need the first meal that you eat to be a breakfast, then that's fine as well. But then we can definitely do some intermittent fasting where it could definitely help with some weight loss if that's still a goal. It can help with a lot of other things, honestly. Because the beautiful thing about intermittent fasting is that we bring ourselves to a point where our body, the new and healthy cells, are eating up the old cells. You're eating yourself. Sounds really creepy, but your body is literally eating itself, like eating the dead cells. So it keeps you
is that the
younger.
keto?
Right.
Okay.
No, ketosis is a next level. Ketosis is where we have very, very few carbs. There's no such thing as no carbs. So whoever tells you no carbs is talking out of their butt. But when you have very, very little to hardly any carbs, and then what your body does in ketosis is, our body right now gets its energy from carbs and sugar, right? That's how it works. And when we go into ketosis, the body starts getting the energy from fat. So it's actually burning our own fat in order to get energy, which is just a beautiful state as well. It's doable. It's a little bit harder with a more vegetarian diet, because as we said, a lot of the proteins that you would consume as a vegetarian are actually carbs as well. So it's a little bit harder to maintain that low carb intake, but it's not doable. It's just the next step, and I wouldn't want to jump right into that first. It's going to be,
And
I
that's
think the
anyway
intermittent
with the
fasting
longer
would be,
fasts, right? After like 18, 20 hours.
you don't have to fast with keto. No, you don't have to fast. It's two
Oh,
different
okay.
worlds.
Okay.
You can focus on a ketogenic diet without doing intermittent fasting, and you can do intermittent fasting and it has nothing to do with keto. It's just two different ways to help our body. I think you did, correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm sorry, I might be wrong, but did you mention at some point in the chat that you noticed some signs of pre-diabetes? Was that correct, or was that?
Yeah, well, my glucose monitor said my fasting glucose was in the pre-diabetic range.
Okay.
But I got a blood test at the doctor to check my HbA1c, and it is on the very low range. So, although I heard, and I am by far not the expert in this, I heard that it is possible to have like a short-term higher sort of fasting glucose level, but that your long-term levels can still be quite low. So I'm not sure about that, but yeah.
Okay.
I think that the diagnostic criteria is definitely that HbA1c. So
Okay.
yeah.
So we won't get into that then. Megan is our pre-diabetes expert, so she might jump in on the chat and maybe give you some ideas. We also recorded a couple of episodes about pre-diabetes, or at least one, so you might want to just have a listen. I think it's a relatively short episode.
Danna helps women heal their relationships with food without the BS. Check out the Urban Cleanse at organilicious.ch/urban cleanse. Tell her I said hi.
Love that.
Friendly reminder.
Your worth is not tied to your productivity.
Even if capitalism says otherwise.
Capitalism can kiss our ass.
Back to the show. You choose health because you deserve to feel amazing every single day. Don't your friends deserve that too? Share this episode with them.
But I do think that if you're open to it, we can definitely discuss intermittent fasting and see how we can stretch you for that extra 1.5 hours towards noon. Again, kind of assuming that maybe you're done eating at 7. So of course it depends on the night before, when you had dinner,
Yeah. So
etc.
usually 6:30 or 7 at the latest. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. So what I would say is just one thing that is very important for me to say: intermittent fasting should not and does not have to happen every day. Okay. It's really important to keep your body on its toes. Sounds funny, but it's super important, because when we get into a certain rhythm, the metabolism is like laid back. It's like, I know what's happening. It's fine. But when we keep it on its toes, switching exercise from morning to afternoon, intermittent fasting here and there, doing these kind of things is actually more helpful to the body than we think. People think like we need to be 100% perfect all the time. That's not necessarily the case.
Okay.
So what I would recommend doing is either deciding for yourself, if you have specific days that it's going to be easier to intermittent fast, either when you're home officing or when you're at the office, for example, or, during the week, but not on the weekend. So these are kind of thoughts that you can put into when do I intermittent fast? And the second thought is around your dinner. Don't hate me. I'm going to pick the worst dinner that you had on your log, which was like a pizza, right? A couple slices of pizza. When you have pizza in the evening, do not. I know it's the easiest is to go like, I was so bad, I'm going to intermittent fast tomorrow to erase what I did. That's probably the worst thing that you can do, just because you're just going to suffer through it. You're going to be super hungry. You're not going to be happy. Your glucose is going to be all over the place. So it's not as helpful as knowing I'm picking on another really good one, kale salad with meatballs and tomato sauce. Perfect dinner, right? I don't know if there were carbs in there. Maybe there were slow carbs in there. That is a perfect dinner to then say, great, tomorrow I'm going to do intermittent fasting because it will be easier for me. So we're coming from love and not from like, I need to kick myself and do this because I'm terrible, but rather like, I'm so good, I'm going to continue riding on that wave. Okay. So the first thing is to look at your dinner and the timing also, and then, reflect on the next day and say, okay, great. I'm working from home. It'll be very easy for me to then intermittent fast. I will focus on X, Y, and Z during my fast. We'll discuss that a little bit. And then I can also focus on how I break the fast. Okay. So for me, those are the 3 most important things in intermittent fasting. What is my dinner? What am I consuming during the fast? And how am I breaking the fast? Because all 3 of those things can come in very handy to you or can shoot you in the leg. We talked about dinner. It should be a more kind of full of fiber, rich in healthy fats, and protein focused dinner. You can also try, after having, for example, that same exact dinner, kale salad, tomato sauce and meatballs, and brown rice. And you should notice for yourself, and this is where the logging comes in handy. Notice for yourself, was that easier for me than that day where I had the exact same meal without the rice? It's just a real question for you to see if it was more supportive. Is dinner kind of clear, or do you have any questions about dinner?
No, it's
okay, perfect. The things that you can consume during a fast, We're talking about drinks, black coffee, no oat milk and stuff like that. Tea, black tea, green tea, not fruit tea, not like fruit-based tea, because you still get the residual sugar. And the best thing that I find to extend the fasting when you feel like I'm going to start getting peckish at this hour, or you kind of feel it coming, is apple cider vinegar drink. I have it in the menu plan, so you can check it out. It's basically apple cider vinegar that is not filtered or pasteurized. I can show you one afterwards, or I'll send you a picture.
Perfect.
And apple cider vinegar with water and salt.
Ooh, that sounds good. Sounds like pickle juice.
It is so good. I'm so happy that you say that, because usually people look at me, they're like, you're disgusting. It is. It's pickle juice. It's like sauerkraut juice. I'm one of the only maniacs who buys the sauerkraut juice in the store. I'm like, oh my God, this is great. That's what it tastes like. Really delicious. If it doesn't taste delicious, I challenge you to add more vinegar and more salt, because usually it's just not enough and it's like dirty water. It should really be this really savory drink.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay. And you can have a whole like half a liter of it. Now, this specific drink is super helpful before eating anything, honestly. Really helpful. But it's generally quite helpful during the fast. And especially, as you said, I'm hungry usually around 10:30, 11. Make like a half a liter of it and start sipping on it at 10. Don't chug it like it's a medicine. Just kind of like enjoy it. And that actually extends the hunger, or not extends the hunger, extends makes sure you're not as hungry. And it also puts your body in a fasting state faster, which means that even if you don't hit the 16-hour mark, your body is probably still going into that state faster. So there's no worry about that. So that's just a drink that you can definitely enjoy. Also try it just today, maybe in the afternoon, just have a sip, make sure you know how much. It's like half a teaspoon of salt, like if not more, depending on the salt that you're using. So don't be scared about the salt either, because the hunger sometimes is just minerals that our body needs. The last thing that you can also consume, if we find a good brand for you, is electrolytes.
I was just going to ask about that.
Yeah. So as long as there's no sugar in it, or there's no sugar replacement that kind of fools your body into thinking that you actually need more food now. So mainly stevia and monk fruit should be the ones, or maybe allulose, right? So those three are okay sweeteners. Megan can send you an electrolyte recipe. I can also give you my favorite one, which is on iHerb. I'm obsessed.
Yes, please.
Sure. And then the one and most important thing afterwards is how you break your fast. If you break your fast with a high carb meal, then you might as well not have fasted. Because what happens now is that when you're in a fasting state and you start eating, your cells are open and they'll take everything in. They're starving. They want food. And so if you put carbs in, it just goes in and turns into fat in our body. But when you're consuming, start with an egg or two, start with a chicken breast, start with some protein intake. Even if you just start with that and half an hour later, you have a more carby lunch, it's okay. It's better than starting immediately with that carby lunch. So I would say just start with a really good meal. Try to avoid raw vegetables. That will be really hard to digest. What do you think about that? Does that sound like something that is reasonable? Do you want to try maybe a couple times?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the intermittent fasting does fit well, although the whole like change up the times is a little difficult for me because I am really a person of habit. So I really don't like to, I don't know. And I don't know if you meant this for the intermittent fasting, like occasionally skip dinner or so and then have breakfast. I do not like to do that.
No.
Just the days,
What I meant was not. Yeah. It's just not to intermittent fast every single day, because that's just not, it's not as helpful either. So
yeah, but that fits really well into my schedule, and I will try the apple cider vinegar drink. That sounds really good.
Keep me updated. It is really good. And I love it when people actually enjoy it. I always feel bad when people are like, that was disgusting. What are you doing to me? Excellent. So give it a try. Keep us updated on the WhatsApp group, just in case you have questions or in case you need a little bit of extra support. We're always here. And the menu plan that I sent you can also help you to kind of see, okay, great, these are good ideas or whatever, but that can be helpful as well.
Perfect. Okay.
Cool.
Thanks so much.
Excellent. Yeah, no problem. So just to mention again, the goals that we discussed, we were talking about putting sticky notes to kind of continue with the food logging because you do feel that it's helpful to you.
Or the stoplight system.
And to, yes, exactly. Or do that, whatever feels right to you in that moment. That's fine. You can mix and match as well. And then just trying out the intermittent fasting, maybe a couple times a week, see how that works for you. Just try to count from around the time that you finished eating, 16 hours. And if it feels like it's overwhelming, 14 hours is fine. And then moving up to 15 hours is fine. Just find your rhythm and find the things that support you. Some people find certain drinks are really supportive. So give that a try and let us know how it goes.
Sounds good. Will do.
Awesome.
All right. Talk to you
All right.
next time.
Okay, we need your help with something.
If this conversation landed for you, please share it. Send it to your best friend or your sister or that woman in your book club who's been struggling with the same shit. That's how we grow. You, real women, sharing real conversations.
Everything we talked about today is on our website at sofrickinhealthy.com. Show notes, links, resources, it's all there. And you can even leave us a voice message. We love hearing your voices.
If the show is helping you on your health journey, would you please take 2 minutes to rate and review us? It helps other women find us, and it tells us we're doing something right.
If you want to go deeper with us, become a member of So Frickin Healthy on our website. You'll get access to bonus content, our private community, and exclusive resources to support your health journey.
Plus, sign up for our email list to stay in the loop and receive occasional rants about wellness culture.
Thank you for showing up for yourself today.
Your health journey matters.
Stay frickin' healthy.
One more thing. If you want to hear Megan and Donna debrief after each session and talk about the coaching strategies that were being used, check out our other podcast called Becoming a Health Coach. We'll be breaking down each session over there. This podcast is a production of the Swisscast Network, amplifying English-speaking voices in, for, and about Switzerland. Learn more at swisscast.network.